Thanks for joining me on Weather and Ag in Focus here on WDAY. This is Bridgette Readel. I'm Ag Director and stepping into meteorology for just a little bit today. And the only reason I want to say that is because it's hot outside. Holy cow. We're going to hit record highs of 95. Whew. Now, Addison, this is not exactly the weather you and I love.
Uh,
I hope you're okay.
no, I'm not.
Well, God bless you for being here today and being indoors so you don't have to worry about it. Now, as far as our crop is concerned, with a little bit of moisture, because we did see some mild pop up showers in certain areas in the last couple of days, we're seeing more crop that's really coming out of the ground and doing well. In fact, I took a early morning peruse through the garden because I was a little concerned that it might get dry out there. I might have some crusting issues where we had moist soil that now the heat's sucked that moisture out, and you get this soil crust where plants can't break through. There's a little bit of that going on. It wasn't terrible, but I know many farmers are keeping an eye on fields as well because they want to make sure that that is not the case in their large size fields. I mean, I'm just worried about a little spot. They're thinking about all the acres. So what is going to happen with the weather to come? Well, I think we've got a little update from Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysocki. All right, we're going to keep an eye on the weather and the potential chances for maybe just a little bit of rainfall coming up soon. Meanwhile, for all of you who are listening and thinking, well, I want to report the weather that I've been getting, and I appreciate whenever folks do that with their WDAY, Darter plastic rain gauges, you send the rain amounts that you've been getting. So thanks to the folks who continue to do that. You can send those measurements to us. I'm ag@flagfamily.com. Dean is weather at flagfamily.com. You can call anytime during the show. That's why we have the JLA insurance phone line of 701 293 9000. We want to make sure that we get to hear your questions and concerns, and callers take advantage of that every day. Thank you for doing so. And if you want to watch, especially because our guest today, who will be Todd Woodbury of the Woodbury Hatchery down near Windermere, you have the opportunity to see quite a lot of good on the podcast brought to us by Lighthouse Commodities. He's been sending great photos and videos of all sorts of ducks and little chicks. So it's going to be a fun conversation. I'm excited to have Todd joining us, and especially to be able to show you some of the highlights that he's sharing with us as well. And again, that's on the live stream brought to us by Lighthouse Commodities. One of the things we're going to talk about with Todd is his son having won an award, which was through the North Dakota FFA Foundation, or excuse me, North Dakota FFA Association, and it was in poultry production. And we're going to talk about his award later, but it brings to mind the fact that next week is North Dakota's 97th FFA convention in Fargo at the Shack. You're all invited to attend. I know I'm going to be there. I will be helping coach students who are doing a pregame show, if you will. It'll be called the FFA Feed. It will be found on the FFA Foundation's Facebook page and YouTube, so you can watch convention sessions starting Monday night at 7 o'clock. Actually, the pregame will start at 6:30, so come a little early. But you could even stop by at the Shack if you'd like. You get to watch the motivational speakers, the awards, and so much more. Next Tuesday afternoon, I will have sponsors joining me on air, as well as students from the talent competition, because there's talent, band, and choir that happens during the state FFA convention. The fun continues Tuesday night when the pregame session kicks off at 6:30, followed by the regular session at 7. The same plan for Wednesday. And then Thursday morning at 9 will be their final session where they elect their state officers for the coming year. I very much look forward to being a part of that activity with those students. Now, I thought it would be an extremely good day because we will have Todd Woodbury of Woodbury Hatchery joining us soon. I thought it'd be a great day to talk about a new textbook, if you will, that is out for all of you who have your backyard chicken flocks. Dr. Cluck's Backyard Chickens. This was published by the University of California Agricultural and Natural Resources, and it is now available for you. This is a fun to read guide that talks about raising poultry if you're wanting to do it just for fun at home, written by veterinarians. So this is going to cover topics like getting ready for those chickens. Do you have enough space? Ideal breeds that you might want, setting up the coop, and so much more. Living with chickens is another section of the book. Caring for them, their nutrition, their weight and health, and even recognizing signs of illness. There is an entire section on diseases, particularly respiratory disease, but even chickens have problems with their gut health. And then at the very end of the book, the end of life decisions discussion. Everybody's got an end of life plan. Does your chicken have one too? Well, now's your time. You can pick up Dr. Cluck's Backyard Chicken Guide, and you can have all that information right at your fingertips. The veterinarians behind writing this book do caution you. Raising chickens for cheap eggs, that's not actually going to happen. Likely, it's going to be more expensive than just buying eggs from the grocery store. But it's more fun. It's a family activity. It keeps you involved. And a chicken's lifespan is generally about 5 years. So you really do need that end of life plan and how long you're going to keep the chickens going with you. And other things happening around the world. We're still going to focus on chickens for just a moment. China has lifted the bird flu related poultry ban in 17 different states. They had gone ahead and put a ban on live birds particularly, but also for any meat that was eligible for export to China. That had been in effect for quite some time. Now this was for raw poultry in particular. Now these bans have been lifted, and especially because we know that in those states, cleaning, biosecurity, disinfection, everything has really increased, and so we are not so worried about that concern right now going to China. Egypt is planning a global grain hub. They're the largest buyer of Russian wheat, and they aim to create a global trading and storage hub. And they plan to do that by putting together a comprehensive strategy. They're going to do it coming up very shortly so that they can be handling grain trading throughout the Middle East, Africa, and other regions. Egypt and Russia, their commodity exchanges could join forces in trying to modernize Egypt's grain trading infrastructure. That would help with pricing benchmarks. Also, supply chain transparency would be a big factor. Brazil, they're sending cheap soy oil abroad as we see biodiesel plants stalling out. Soybean oil, is produced in Brazil. They are the top producer for the globe, and they've hit record amounts of that oil and that crop. But there's been a delay in their country's plans to boost local demand through biofuels mandates, and that's resulted in an excess of cheap soy oil supplies being shipped overseas. Soy futures have climbed about 56% this year, and we can have that conversation with Greg Hansen for Hansen Agri Commodities and Market Uncovered tomorrow on Friday at 1:20. Meanwhile, we should know that a discount for soy oil on Brazil's key ports is now the widest gap since 2023, and the low cost has really helped push Brazil's soy oil exports up about 47% already this year. Second highest volume for the period in the past 2 decades. In Brazil, so oil is used in most of their biodiesel production, but also they may be looking at new mandates on blending rates that could be affecting their supply coming in the near future. All right, more is going to be coming. We've got lots to talk about. One last little positive for everybody to hear: the Midwestern exodus may be ending. We've talked so many years about how people are picking up and moving out of the Midwest, leaving rural areas. Might be too early to call it, but for the first time in many years, numbers are pointing to an upbeat direction. When we looked at numbers ending a year ago in June by census, the Midwest had actually gained people from about the rest of the country, about 16,000. So a good sized town really moved back into the Midwest. And that reversed losses that as recently as 2022 was more in the neighborhood of 175,000 people moving on out. Improvements are really evident in service-based economies like Indianapolis, Columbus, Des Moines, also Cleveland and Akron, which they've struggled to really evolve from their industrial timing and legacies. So that turnaround in Northeast Ohio might be driven by a slowdown in residents leaving for other parts of the country, but Midwesterners in recent years have been flocking to those Sunbelt states. That's why you all like to say it's just a dry heat in Arizona. And housing affordability is truly making an impact as well when it comes to people wanting to stay and live in the Midwest. Remote jobs aren't a bad thing either. We're going to take a break for the American Ag Network's livestock report. When we return, we will be joined by Todd Woodbury of Woodbury Hatchery down in Wyndmere. Looking forward to this conversation. Keep those flags flying high, whether they're in your farmyard, your shop, and maybe even off some equipment. Sort of hard to put them on the sprayer, but what a great way to know the wind direction and speed if you've got a U.S. flag flying off your equipment. And thanks to landmark companies, we make sure that we are out flagging farmers. We're handing out U.S. flags to fly off the farm equipment in the yards and in the shops. And we'll be doing that again with the next sponsor coming up here in June, and that'll be Geronimo Power. Keep an eye out for us. You never know when it's my turn to flag you as a farmer. Speaking of farmers, we're joined by one today, and that is Todd Woodbury of Woodbury Hatchery. And okay, Todd, I just have to start this conversation by saying, until I saw an article in I'm going to show it now, the Edible North Dakota magazine, I didn't even know we had a hatchery in North Dakota. So is that one of your chickens on the cover?
It is, yes.
Tell us about Woodbury Hatchery, where you are, and how this got started.
We our hatchery's north of Wyoming, or west of Colfax, the southeast corner of the state. Um, I've always liked poultry. Started raising chickens when I was about 7 or 8 years old, and um, about in 2000 or in, I think it was yeah, it was been 2019. Like we were cleaning the granary out so my kids could separate some breeds of chickens to hatch purebred chickens for showing at the fair, and I brought it to the kids. If you this is a lot of work, and if you'd want to sell some chicks, maybe you could sell some chicks. So my oldest boy uh, put the word out on Facebook and other social media platforms, and then and the phone started to ring more than we were prepared for. And it started very small, like 100 chicks a week or less, and now it's significantly more than that. And but that's how it got started, Bridget.
Okay. So, but this is not your only enterprise. You farm as well. You've got plenty of other things going on. You're raising 4 kids, and have chickens been kind of a natural fit into the operation and maybe a bigger fit than you expected?
Um, I would say yes. Um, it it this time of year is a little stressful because it's the busiest time of year to hatch chicks, and also the busiest and most important time of the year as being a farmer to get your crop established. So trying to do both is a challenge. When equipment salesmen come in the yard, I tell them that the farm has went to the birds, and I don't know if I'm interested. And then I bring them into the shop, and they look at the incubators and see that it has went to the birds. And but I still farm. I say that I try to farm. That's our main source of income is farming. But it is a challenge to do both this time of year.
As you got started, how did you choose the breeds that you wanted to start incubating? And there's a process, right? Which came first, the chicken or the egg? So can you kind of walk us through how that began? And I know Addison's got some photos and things, especially one of your son standing in front of a lot of racks of eggs. He'll probably be able to show those to our viewers on the live stream.
Okay. Um, we started with breeds that we liked ourselves, selves, and ones that we had access to breeding stock of. And as the hatchery grew, we've been able to source better breeders that are more productive. And currently, that is our focus is good production of meat or eggs. We do have some novelty breeds for different egg colors and chicken colors, but um, I guess that's our focus now is more productive birds and for meat or eggs. And yeah,
Are you
yeah. Go ahead.
generally raising are you generally raising like white or brown eggs, but like you said, just every once in a while there's a specialty color in there? And do you get a request for brown eggs over white eggs as far as which breeds to have?
We have much more demand for brown eggs than white eggs. Um, we do hatch some white eggs, and then we also hatch uh, chickens that would lay blue eggs, green eggs, olive color eggs, or really dark brown eggs, more color chocolate. And there's a lot of backyard flocks or owners that like that variety. Um, they don't need to buy any dye at Easter time. They have the variety already. Um, yeah, so it's quite a variety. But our best seller is just a medium to dark brown layer egg, and then broiler chicks, I guess, is our best seller. But I guess that picture does have a lot of white eggs. That was taken at a time when I had access to buy some white eggs. So that picture was taken.
Hmm.
We do buy some eggs. We can't produce enough, and that's why there's quite a few white eggs in that picture that you have on there now.
Uh-huh.
But that picture is about 3 years old, I think. I haven't been taking. I need to take more pictures. Um, I
But
Yeah.
the pictures you've got are telling a great story, Todd, and your family is so involved. There's so much going on. Can I ask how many birds you have now, or is that maybe a trade secret I don't need to know?
Um, we have about 800 chickens on our farm, and
Hmm.
then there's an Amish farm that produces some eggs for us at Clarissa, Minnesota, and then we
Uh-huh.
buy some eggs from a couple commercial operations, one in Iowa and one in Arkansas, and that's where most of our eggs come from. We do buy duck eggs too. We currently don't have any duck breeders on the farm. I enjoy raising ducks. It's just their management is a challenge. They like to play in their water, and the barn would need to be designed properly to produce good, clean hatching eggs for ducklings, duck eggs, I guess. So
My sister had ducks for a little while at their place, and she did say, ducks are a mess. So I
they
understand what
are.
you're saying. They are
They're fun to
messy.
raise in the summer. They're fun to raise in the summertime when you can water them outside, and
Uh-huh.
and then their barn can stay relatively clean. But once winter comes, they don't they want to play in the water year round. And but there ain't much cuter than a day old duckling. I appreciate the putting that video on there. I guess that most of our ducklings are sold to Hutterite colonies, and they like to eat duck usually on Sunday, and so
Ah,
we hatch quite a few ducklings this time of year, and are marketed mainly to them, but we do sell to backyard flocks too. So that,
eh,
but
the photo that or the video right now that we have on our live stream is of those little ducklings, and you're right, there is nothing cuter. So I hope everybody gets a chance to go watch this live stream later and see all the photos. But we do have a question for you, Todd. Tom is on line one, and so Tom, would you go ahead with your question?
Yes. So what does he do? Well, there's a two part. It's one's a question, one's a statement. The first is a question. What does he do in really hot weather like this? How do you keep the chicks from, you know, having too much heat? And
Overheating?
then do the chicken?
Yeah.
Yes, overheating. That's the word. And then do the chickens lay less eggs because of the heat? And then my statement is my mom, when she was growing up, she said it was a lot of fun to put a duckling with a chicken egg because when the duckling would go for the water, the chicken would go nuts because the kids are not supposed to be in the water. So, anyway.
yeah.
That's a great point. Go ahead, Todd. Please go ahead and answer those questions.
So I'll start with the chicks. So we ship chicks this Tuesday, and shipping chicks is always a challenge. We try to accommodate um, so the chicks can tolerate the weather that they're going to be shipped in, and we have boxes that have larger holes, more holes in them, and then we didn't fill them full on Tuesday. Um, the people that I've talked to so far that received chicks this week, everything worked well. Um, but it is a concern and a challenge because it's a day old bird cannot control its body temperature, and it's up to usually the mother bird to do that. But when we're doing it, we have to control that temperature, and that is the biggest challenge that I see with um, backyard poultry in that first week of that bird's life is controlling the temperature of the environment. And one thing I would stress for a backyard person is have a good thermometer. A laser thermometer or a thermal heat gun is a really good thing and handy thing. You can just see what the temperature is in the brooding area. Um, that's probably more than you were looking for an answer. And as far as adult birds, this time of year, we have large exhaust fans in our barn, a stir fan, so we're moving air. We don't have anything to make the barn cooler than it is outside. It is stressful, but with air movement, we can still maintain good egg production, and we can with any livestock, whatever we can do to minimize stress is a big thing. And I understand in a backyard flock having exhaust fan or fans is maybe not feasible, but at least shade and ventilation on days like today. This is a stressful, and it's a little early. We're only end of May and we're 94 degrees, I think. Um, I'm
Yeah.
I'm a little stressed. I'm overweight and it's hot for me. So I can imagine what the birds are like in the barn. So, and there was one other thing you might have asked me. And I have heard of the duckling underneath the chicken. I haven't did it myself, but if there was another question, please repeat it. I'm sorry if I forgot.
Yeah,
another question later.
I guess what I was wondering, yes, do the chickens have more difficulty because of the heat? Well, it probably doesn't sound like it now. I was going to say in laying the eggs, does that make a difference in production?
Any stress can lower egg production. Um, just keep that in mind. Make sure they have
Mhm.
plenty of fresh water. If you wouldn't drink it, clean it. That's what I would say. And that's a big problem with any livestock I see. And that was my dad was a purebred Simmental breeder, and probably more passionate about that than farming. He also farmed, and that was one thing he would stress is clean water
Mhm.
and I would say that with poultry too. Yeah, just if there's foreign material in there, they don't want to drink it. And clean, yeah, that ventilation and clean water. What I would say would
Sure.
be.
Thank you very much.
Tom was so kind to call us on the JLA insurance phone line today. We thank him for that. That number is 701-293-9000. More of you can call with your questions for Todd Woodbury of Woodbury Hatchery at Winemere. When we return, we're going to hear our news break and then be back. today is a great day to be watching the Lighthouse Commodities live stream on Acres, YouTube, and Facebook because we're showing videos and photos of some of our favorite things, and that is little baby animals like chickens and ducks as we visit with Todd Woodbury of Woodbury Hatchery at Winemere. All right, so Todd, lots of great questions that are coming in for you. First of all, those watching the live stream are really loving your shirt. It's got all the big roosters on it. Very nice. Then, next question, biosecurity. Through the whole bird flu situation, did you have any concerns for your chickens with bird flu? Has that been pretty calm for you? What's that sound like?
We have been fortunate not to be affected by bird flu directly.
Mm-hmm.
We're as careful as we can be. We have foot baths where we come into our barns. Our birds are kept inside to stay isolated from wild birds. And we fortunately are in an area that doesn't have a lot of sloughs and for wild waterfowl to land near our farm. But I think we just lucky is probably the main thing. You don't have to go too far from us, and there's been issues to the west where there's more sloughs. Some larger operations have had to cull their flocks due to it, and some of our customers have too. And it is a concern, but we do what we can, and we can't worry about what's out of our control, which is difficult sometimes. But
Well, it is because we all want to worry about all those things, right? And we just can't. But I can
yep.
tell you that you're taking the precautions, and that's going to help so much. Just that cautionary tale, because you are raising 800 chicks at a time. And where are they going? Because these aren't all just going to folks who have a backyard flock, correct?
That's correct. The 800, that's about the number of the breeder chickens we have on the farm. We hatch, from 5 to 18,000 a week chicks. But we have some larger customers, mainly Hutterite colonies in South Dakota, North Dakota, and Minnesota that take a good chunk of our chickens, and then we have a lot of backyard flocks, that buy chicks from us, and we ship using speedy delivery. They cover a several state area: North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, part of Kansas, Missouri, Iowa, Minnesota, and Wisconsin, part of Michigan, and then Illinois. So that's the area we ship to, and Speedy has been doing a good job getting the chicks to where they get to the customers. So
you cut a wide swath, and again, we're watching videos. We're seeing your kids are out collecting eggs and just being a part of the operation. And my guess is the kids have also maybe got some of their favorites. And the reason I bring that up is I recently talked with a gentleman down in Missouri who is raising chicks as well, and he said that the brown egg layers are very friendly. They're almost like a dog. They'll follow you around and want to visit, etc. But then the white egg layers are a little more standoffish, like a cat. Everything scares them. So have you and the kids found that as well? And do you have sort of your favorite breed to work with?
What you said is correct. Naturally, a chicken that lays brown eggs naturally is calm chicken, and a chicken that lays white eggs naturally is wilder, and a chicken that lays blue or green eggs naturally is wilder too. But a lot of breeders are trying to select for calmer genetics, and we try to select breeds that would be calmer too. But the reason the leghorns that lay the white eggs are very popular commercially is they're very good at converting feed to eggs. They're the most efficient at doing that. And so I see now he's playing the video of some chicks drinking. I just sent him that video after the question that we had, because when I posted this on Facebook, I had a song on there that was to do with water. I can't remember the name of it, but just the importance of water is extremely important. I mean, it's just important there. So,
and they're not like dipping their heads in little water troughs. They're actually using like a drip system that they can reach up to, and so they don't have a water mess everywhere, right?
Yep. This barn, there is some small. This is the day they're placed, so they're getting trained. There is some open waters in this brooder barn currently, in the video, but later they're pulled. Hydration is so important that I don't want to take the chance of some of them not finding the nipple water,
Right.
and I think I just thought it was cute the chicks drinking from that. But um, commercially, commercially, this is how all poultry is watered with a nipple water line
Okay.
to have
Uh-huh.
less mess, and then cleaner water. The water in that pipe is clean. It's less chance of disease transfer between birds and form bacteria in the water. It's just a much better way of
Absolutely.
watering poultry. But
Oh, this is so much fun to watch. All right. You probably have folks that talk to you for their advice when it comes to raising their own chicks at home in the backyard, etc. And I remember hearing you talk a little bit earlier about how important temperature is, especially in those first couple of days. Would you recommend that if you're going to bring chicks home, should you be doing them in the spring with the temperatures or in the fall when it's a little cooler? Is it easier to regulate at those times?
I would say from now through July is the nicest time to start birds because we have the natural heat. Bird,
Uh-huh.
depending on the breed, the bird wants to be in the low 90s for temperature that first week, low to mid 90s. And that temperature is depending on how much air movement there is in the barn. So you just got to monitor the birds to make sure if they're crowding, they're cold. If they're moving away from a heat source, then they're hot. Um, and it just I have a hard time recommending one brooder temperature due to some people might have a slight amount of air movement in there, and but I probably answered too much of that question there, I guess. But
No,
summertime, this from
no.
now on through the hot summer is the nicest time to start birds. Most people want to start their layers in February and March, so they have egg production sooner. But
Hmm.
from this part of the year on is the nicest time to start birds because you don't need as much heat, and then the birds are
Sure.
feathering when it starts to cool down and everything works well. So that's a
And
several year
Todd,
old video of my daughter showing some different breeds. I think that's 4 years old. It's
mhm.
yeah. I just thought that was a neat video. I need to take more current videos of things, but
Well, but we love seeing the videos that you have. I mean, if folks go to your Facebook page, they're going to be able to follow along with all of the things that you have been doing. And is it just the Facebook page, or where can folks come to find you when they have questions, Todd?
we have a website. The name of that is woodburyhatchery.com, and they could order chicks there, or they can give us a call. Phone numbers on there too. And
Hmm.
I encourage phone calls if you got questions. It just
Uh,
um, yeah.
this has been great fun, and I have a feeling we may talk to you from time to time because we get a lot of questions about backyard chickens and even commercial flocks. They're not very prevalent in North Dakota, so you've shown us quite a different side of animal production here in the state. Again, I found Todd because I was reading the Edible North Dakota magazine. If you haven't picked up your free copy yet, please get the one with Todd's chicken on the front because, again, that is the Woodbury Hatchery and that is down at Windmere, North Dakota. Todd, thank you so much for coming and spending some time talking about your passion of the birds today. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. And yeah, if you'd want to invite me again, I could help answer some questions about for backyard people, if they would appreciate
Well,
that. So
sounds like you're one of my new poultry experts, so I appreciate that. All right, for those listening, don't go anywhere. I've got some more headlines to go through, and we'll probably take a little quick look at the weather as well. Be right back. Well, as we watch for what's happening with rainfall, there's some other things we got to keep in mind, and that would include the fact that we have some tight forage supplies. Ranchers across the state are being urged to prepare for potential drought-like conditions throughout the summer, and that's going to impact our forage growth forecasts and prospects. So, if you have an excess amount of forage on hand, we're talking about hay, straw for bedding, etc. Great idea. Manage that very well. But a lot of areas are thinking they might be at 50% of their normal capacity and production when it comes to forage crops. So there's only a short window that remains to get needed rain for forage development. Usually by the time we get to the end of June, we have the precipitation needed to grow 90% of the forages around the state of North Dakota. Areas in Nebraska that on the drought monitor are also in severe drought situations, they're in even worse shape because after the wildfires that blew through there in March, they've had less than a half inch of rain. Be right around a third for many of those places that they haven't been able to recoup their grass. It hasn't started to regrow. So we're seeing pastures being rented in numerous places around the country as herds are on the move or being sold because of a lack of pasture and forage ground. When we have this windy, dusty weather like we've been going on and not a lot of rainfall, we have an increased risk of dust pneumonia as well as pink eye in cattle. So if you see more coughing in the herd, if you hear the wheezing, you're really encouraged to have that discussion with your veterinarian because it's persistent and that dust does build up pneumonia, especially in young calves. Producers can use dust control on roads, but also hydration to help reduce the stress. Make sure they're drinking plenty of extra water because that makes the defensive mucus work much better for those animals. All along the theme of livestock today, so many different situations happening. We had a question not that long ago on one of our morning shows. What happens to the hide on cattle when we take them in for slaughter? Excellent question. Many of you would see those in your shoes, your car's leather interior, furniture, and so many other places. But there's been a big downturn in the desire for real leather. And so that leaves processing plants with the question of, what do we do with the hides? Now, if you have a deer hide, many of us turn them in during hunting season, at the end of hunting season anyway, get a great pair of gloves. But in the case of the beef hides, because there's so many being processed all throughout the year, you may see folks being able to use those, again, back to the shoes, the purses, the real cowhide type of thing. But they also can be rendered for dog food. And right now, about 40% of them are just headed for a landfill. They're biodegradable. They'll break down, but there's really not a purpose for them. So the next time you're ordering a vehicle, which won't necessarily be me, but if somebody is ordering a vehicle, maybe you want to find your favorite cowhide and have that interior made with it. That's something that you can always look back on with great pride and joy because maybe that was your favorite animal and all of a sudden now it's the hide in the vehicle. The USDA's APHIS, which is the Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service, has confirmed cases of pseudo-rabies virus in swine herds in Iowa and Texas. 5 boars on a small commercial swine facility in Iowa were first to test positive for the pseudovirus. These boars came from an outdoor herd in Texas where they had been in contact with feral swine. And the Iowa swine facility had no positive test outside of those particular 5 boars. The pseudo-rabies virus does require depopulating when it is found. What is pseudo-rabies? It's actually a herpes virus similar to chickenpox or shingles in humans. And when pigs are exposed to the pseudo-rabies virus, they go to a point where they're sick and they should be shedding the virus and then they recover. But the virus hangs on in a cranial nerve in the brain and the tonsil. By the way, pigs have tonsils? I need to talk to a veterinarian. But if the animal gets stressed later, then they could shed that virus. It was believed to have been eradicated from all of our pork production herds in 2024 through testing and vaccinations. But again, there was indeed some contact with the feral herd in this particular situation. Looking forward to catching up on more headlines tomorrow, as well as we'll be joined by our guest, Greg Hansen, for Market Uncovered. Let's see what's been going on in the grain markets and so much more over the last week or two. Stay tuned for Jay Thomas. He's up next, and I'll see you tomorrow.